Hello everybody, my name is Megan and welcome to my 24 in 24. So, you've probably seen these videos going around a little bit, but this is a list of 24 books that I have put together of books I want to read in 2024. And 24 books seems like a pretty reasonable number because it's 2 a month. I'm not sure if going forwards 25 and 25 is going to seem as reasonable. Like, how long do you go on for with that? So I don't know if these are going to become a staple video on my channel or if next year I'm just going to do the 12 books from 12 friends thing and go from there, but we will see what happens. But yeah, 24, pretty decent number. I'm able to split it into 3 and do 8 books in 3 sections, which are sections that I'm sort of helping to prioritise a little bit in my reading going forwards. Well, I say prioritise, one of them is maybe something that should not be part of the list, but I did it anyway. So the first section is sequels, so books that I already own that are sequels to books that I've read that I need to continue the series of. It's either going to complete a series, get me up to date in a series, or continue a series that has many books in it that I want to make sort of slow progress going through. Does that make sense? I hope so, because I have no other words for it. The second lot of books is anticipated releases, so books that are coming out in 2024 that I am absolutely hoping to read immediately as soon as I get my grubby little hands on them. And the final section is like backlist books, so books that I own that are part of my backlist that I didn't read either as soon as I got them or in any of the subsequent years of owning them that I really want to prioritise this year. So I've started with sequels, so we may as well start there. So the first of the 8 that I put on my list, Painted Devils, is a sequel to Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I reread Little Thieves to read Painted Devils because it was one of my most anticipated books of the year, and then I did not read it because I was scared that it wasn't going to be as good. But the author is now posting mini short stories that are going to bridge this and the third book, Holy Terrors, which I believe is the final book in the series. And I really need to read it. I don't have TBRs because I will put things on a list and then not read them and then feel bad about it, so never read anything. But this is mentally on my January want to read list. So fingers crossed I get to this as soon as possible. But yeah, this is about Vanya, who is a girl who was given up by her birth parents as a child and adopted by the gods of death and fortune. And the first book is a loose retelling of the Goose Girl story, and then this sort of follows on from that. So you should definitely read Little Thieves if you have not. And then the next book on this list is The Secret Service of Tea and Treason by India Holton, which, oh gosh, is it the Dangerous Damsel series? I think it's the third and final book in the Dangerous Damsel series, which is set in, is it Regency? Like Victorian England? I think Victorian as opposed to Regency. I'm pretty sure we meet Queen Victoria in one of the books. Anyway, not really super relevant, but it's about witches and pirates and spies, and they're sort of very whimsical and silly and funny and super romantic, and I loved books 1 and 2 when I read them in 2022. And then it took me a long time to get my hands on this one because I read them before they were published in the UK, so I have the Berkeley edition that I had to wait for one of my family members to bring back from America for me because I could not find it for love nor money in the UK because they had the Penguin editions, which are not the same height nor as floppy, so that was unfortunate. But yes, I finally have this in my hands and I will be reading it as soon as possible. The next book on this list is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to, oh, it's so pretty. It's the sequel to Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is a dark academia book set at Yale, following Alex Stern, who can see ghosts, who's sort of been snuck into the university to help solve a mystery, despite the fact that she's not necessarily academically gifted enough to be going to Yale. And gosh, there's a guy called Darlington and things happen, and I don't remember enough of Ninth House to read this, even though I was super excited when this beautiful Illumicrate edition arrived. I did want to read it. I just know I need to reread Ninth House first because I do not recall enough of the plot. But I do know I remember really enjoying the mystery. I read it really quickly when I first read it, so hopefully can check this one off the list as well. The next book we have is The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. I read The Jasmine Throne a while back and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. It was absolutely my favourite book of the Sapphic trifecta that Illumicrate published at a similar time. Yeah, it's book 2 in the Burning Kingdom series that is a very political fantasy with sort of vaguer magical elements that follows multiple different perspectives going through this sort of colonised kingdom who are fighting back against their oppressors, and yet the oppressors are having their own internal struggle, and it was very good, and I'm excited to continue, especially since we have a title for book 3, which means I need to read this before I forget what happens in book 1, so that hopefully I'm ready for when book 3 comes out and haven't forgotten everything in the meantime. The next book on my list is one that I don't physically own yet, but I have purchased. So it's Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. I read One Dark Window in like December, I think. It was quite late in the year, it was either November, December, and I really liked it. It's a sort of darker, almost gothic fantasy romance about a world in which like a deck of cards impart powers onto people, and there's a very limited number of these cards in circulation, so whoever has them has power, and there is an illness where if you catch the illness then you're put to death, because once you've recovered from the illness you tend to have sort of powers, and there's like a mist that's encroaching, and it was all very interesting, and the romance was so good, and it's a duology as well, so it will be done when I've read the second book. But I have the audio, I've purchased the Fairylive edition, I just don't know when that will be arriving. So at some point before I have a physical book, I will likely have already listened to this on audio, because I am desperate to know what happens. But I needed some easy wins on this list because there are some sort of scarier sequels, Hellbent and the Oleander Sword. I was like, you know what, no, Two Twisted Crowns is gonna save me here. Which is the same for this next pick, which is A Perilous Undertaking by, I was about to say Veronica Speedwell, that is not. It's by Gianna Rayborn, which is a Veronica Speedwell mystery. I really enjoyed A Perilous Undertaking, the first book in this series. At least I really hope this is the second one. I'm sure I double checked before I requested it. This is also the US edition from Berkeley that was brought over by a living family member, because I really don't like the UK covers, and again, these are pretty and floppy. So yeah, it's about Veronica Speedwell, who is a butterfly person. She like finds them and categorizes them, and there is a word for it that I can't remember. And she meets this guy Stoker who does something similar, and there's a mystery, and she's like kidnapped, and it's just all very dramatic and fun, and I need the romance to develop a bit more. I feel like it takes a long time because there's I think currently 8 books out in the series, or 9 books, but it's really fun and I'm really excited to continue. Now this next one I'm very scared of, but I need to read it. I don't know why I haven't. It is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I have been reading this series for so long because I feel like I know where it's going and I don't want it to go there, and so I've just not picked it up. But there's no excuses. I need to read it. It's so large, but I have to read it. So this is the 3rd book in the Poppy War trilogy. It is loosely based on Sino-Japanese relations and wars of history, whilst also introducing magical elements. It has characters who you're rooting for, but you know they're making the wrong decisions, and yeah, it's going to hurt me. So I've been putting it off. I was going to read it at the very beginning of last year. I didn't. So I just got to do it. I got to stop being a baby and read the damn book. And finally, for this section, we have Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore, which is the 4th book in the Graceling Realm series. There are now 5. So I'm behind. Yeah, this one I think follows on a couple of years after Bitter Blue, which I think was my least favourite in the series, but it was still very good. So yeah, it's 5 years after Bitter Blue. I don't really know the plot. I don't know why it seems to follow Bitter Blue when the 3 books in the other series all followed like different people and just had vague overlap. So I'm intrigued. But yeah, it's a world in which some people have graces, which means they have like a special power. And I don't remember all of the politics that went into this series, so I think I sort of need to give myself a bit of a refresher before jumping into this one. But I do know that I really love fire, and it's just a really well done series with intricate politics and magic, and I have no excuse to not continue with this because I pre-ordered the audiobook. I was going to read it straight away. That obviously did not happen. So that is 8 sequels. Now for 8 anticipated releases, I'm probably going to speak about these ones a little bit less because I'm going to do an anticipated, or like a 2024 releases video. And if you follow me on any other social media, as these books come out, I will likely be talking about them a lot as well. But the first one I have is Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew, which I don't really know what this is about. I just know that Kelly Andrew wrote The Whispering Dark, which is one of my favourite books of all time. And so I will read her, sophomore novel, absolutely. No questions. I read it. I know it's about 3 people and it's at like a rustic farmhouse and there's a cat maybe, and that's all I got. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. book 2 on the anticipated releases list is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This could have gone into the sequel section technically because it is a sequel, but it's a sequel that I don't own yet. I've not purchased it in any way because it's I haven't put it on sale. Ruthless Vows, the second book in the Letters of Enchantment series, a sequel to Divine Rivals, one of my favourite books of last year, which if you haven't heard of it, where have you been? It's everywhere. But yeah, definitely going to read this one. Book 3 on my list is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. Hafsa Faizal wrote one of my favourite duologies of all time, The Sands of Aurora, so absolutely good picking up this. It's like a heist novel set in a tea shop that also serves a vampire clientele. That's all I need to know, really. And I love Hafsa Faizal's writing, so again, picking up anything that she writes, basically. Fourth book on this list is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I have loved every Emily Henry adult romance I have read, so I will continue to pick them up, even if any of them disappoint me. But, you know, they've not so far. I trust her with my life at this point. Book 5 on this list is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This is, I'm hoping, in a similar vein to The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, in that it is a cosy, contemporary fantasy romance, and I could not be more hyped. I'm so ready. I loved The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, so hoping that this one has the exact same formula, to be honest. The 6th book on this list, I was tempted to, the author has 2 books coming up this year and I was struggling to decide which one to put on, but I went for A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft, which is an adult sapphic fantasy that I'm real hyped about. Her other novel is A Fragile Enchantment, which is like a YA romantasy, but that came out literally on like January 2nd or something, so it felt like it was a lot earlier in the year, and I read it immediately upon the year beginning, so again it felt like cheating to put 2 books I'd already read on this list. I did make this list well before the year started, I just didn't film this video, so that's pretty much all I know about A Dark and Drowning Tide, but I do trust Alison Saft. She's behind me on my favourite shelf, so yeah, I'm very excited for A Dark and Drowning Tide, especially since it is sapphic, because all of her other romances have been like bi for bi, which I love, absolutely. Give me more bi romances, but I'm excited to see her exploration of a female-female romance. The 7th book in this section is All Flames and New Fortunes by Sarah Hogle. I do have one Sarah Hogle book I haven't read, Just Like Magic, but her other 2 books, I love them so much. You Deserve Each Other is like up there as my favourite romance ever. Like, there's just something about it that I am obsessed with. So I'm excited for her take on like a cozy fantasy contemporary romance, even if I have heard slightly bad things about the other one she did that was a Christmas book. But I'll only be reading that next Christmas because I missed it this year. And my final book for this section is Evocation by S.T. Gibson. All I know is by S.T. Gibson, who again trust with my life at this point, because A Diary of Blood was everything to me. It was so good. And I know that this is male, female. Is it like a triad, a polycule? I don't know, but there's something wild going on with the relationships in this one. And from everything that they've shared on Twitter about the aesthetic and the vibe, I'm here for it. I'm excited, and I need to know very little else. So yeah, this is the last book that I'm hoping to read in this anticipated releases section. It is by no means a comprehensive list of every book that's coming out this year that I'm excited about. And this final section is the owned books that I've had either for, you know, a long time or not a massive amount of time, but that I feel ridiculous that I've not read yet. So the first one is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I've owned this for a good while. It was only £2 for a charity shop. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it, and yet I haven't picked it up. So I'm committing this year to reading it. It's gonna happen. This is like a murder mystery set at an elite university. And like, I know, I've been looking for this bookmark for so long. Oh my god, I'm so glad I found it. I know the twist, but I don't think that's going to impact my enjoyment of it, so we'll see how that goes. The next book on this list, in a similar vein, is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, which I've put on multiple videos. I'm like, if I don't read this now, I'm never going to read it. If I don't read it this year, I should unhaul it. I'm like, you know what? Let's do it to myself again. If I don't read it this October, it has to leave my house. It has to. Before October, or if I've not read it by the end of October, it's gotta go. It's gotta go. I don't know what it is. It's like multimedia-esque. People hate it, people love it. I don't know how to explain it, but I need to read it. It's gotta happen. This is a very different vibe now. We have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, because I own this entire trilogy, and there people out there would love to have a matching Fairy Loot edition of this series, and I haven't enjoyed previous Stephanie Garber books, so I need to read it to make sure that I want to keep hold of this trilogy in its entirety, or if I should just get it off my shelves, you know, let it be. So this is on the list. I need to read it this year. Next, we have one that I'm slightly more excited about. We have Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is a book that I know a lot of people had on their favourites list of like 2022, and I just never got around to reading it. So I have it on audio. I have like a special edition. Like, I want no excuse to have not read this now, and I need to give it a go. I know Chloe really enjoyed it last year. I think she put it on her favourites list. So yeah, I need to listen to more of Chloe's recommendations, because she's definitely read a lot of mine, and I think it's time to sort of return the favour. I don't really know what any of these are about, by the way. They've sat on my shelves for so long I've sort of forgotten. So the next one is one that I bought from New York in February, and this one is sort of replaceable with any of the other two romances that I bought from New York in February that I've still not read yet. So we've got Something in the Air by Suzanne Enoch, Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin, and Fool Me Once by Ashley Winstead. Let's hope. So this one can sort of be interchangeable with all of those three. Hopefully I read all three of them. But yeah, I bought a lot of cute romancy books in America because they just publish them nicer. This is, you know, nice and floppy, and yeah, they just have sort of prettier covers, but I've then just not read them. So this is, yeah, it sounded cute. It's like fake marriage with fake adopted children. I don't really know, but I guess we'll find out. And then the next one we have is Woman Eating by Claire Coda. I've been enjoying a lot of the vampire books I've been reading recently, and I want to continue to read more of them, and I've not been doing. They've just sort of been sitting on my shelf. So this is an effort to read more of my vampire books. So Woman Eating, all I know about it is that it's a slightly more literary, not super vampire book, but it still definitely is a vampire book. And I want to read it this year. The third book is one that has made my 5-star predictions list, I think. It is The Ballad of Perilous Graves by Alex Jennings, which is published by Orbit, which is one of my favourite UK fantasy publishing houses. It is blurbed by a couple of authors I've not read from before, but that I've been really intrigued by, and the synopsis just sounded really fun. It's got like a city personified as a character, which I really enjoy. It's got music, it's got fun guy's name, Perilous Graves. What a fun name. And the cover is so fun. Like, I don't know why I've not read this yet, but I'm going to, because I'm excited about it. I just need to prioritise reading with my eyes and not just only reading things that I can also get the audiobook or the ebook for, because I can read with my eyes. It's okay. Oh, and then finally, this one is shameful. Jade City by Fonda Lee. I own this entire trilogy twice. I don't know why I've not read it. I got the special editions from Maluma Crate thinking I will read them before they arrive, because now I've bought them, I need to read them, and then I didn't. And for what reason? I think they scare me a little bit because they're big fantasy books, but they also seem to have more of like a modern vibe, like a gang war vibe from what I've heard from people, and that is not necessarily my favourite setting for a fantasy, but I've heard nothing but amazing things about this series, so like, what's stopping me? Again, I know Chloe really likes these, so should read more of Chloe's favourite books rather than just making her read mine, because that's, you know, what friends do. So that is 24 books that I want to read in 2024. I have read one of them already, but we're only 7 days in, so still got to read at least another one this month to be on track. Let me know in the comments if there are any of these books that you think I should get to as soon as possible. If you think there are any that you're like, Megan, how could you not have read this already? Let me know. Do you have 24 books you want to read in 2024? Again, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. Follow me on any of my social media that are linked in the comments, and I will see you in another video in a week's time. Bye!